as you all probably know since you're here today, our global economy runs on billions and billions of pounds of materials that's extracted, grown, manufactured, shipped around, used up, and sadly, for the most part, still sent to landfill or ends up in the natural environment. So to change this, one thing we know is we need to understand a lot more about our materials. Where are they? What's in them? What could we do with them? So I would propose a question. What if we saw stuff as information? What if we looked at all of these materials spanning around the globe, moving around, as billions and trillions of bits of data? This is an inspiring question to us at Google, because as you probably know, we love a good data challenge. And it really enables us to think about the role that we can play in utilizing our technology, our platforms, and our expertise to partner in advancing this critical mission that we're all on together.
Yeah, so it is very clear that companies have a role to play as companies, of course. We all have a responsibility, but we have also to understand that the scope of responsibility is getting very broad, and it is getting broad because we have a lot of influence, and we asked for that influence. We asked for this capacity to act. So now we have to take on also the part of responsibility, and that means supporting our suppliers with, of course, constraints, but also support, helping them to improve their environmental footprint. At L'Oréal, our suppliers know that they will have to have a carbon reduction at a certain speed in order to continue to work with us. You have that with in the whole value chain. But we also have to work with our consumers. We have to work for companies, depends on how their value chain looks like, but we are responsible not just for ourselves, but also for our system of partners, consumers, suppliers, and we have a role as companies to play there.
The whole green agenda bubbled up again, and I was perfectly poised to kind of follow my passion for the environment. And I found myself writing a column for the Times called Ecosphere, and also presenting a 30-week series for Sky called Go for Green. And in 1991, I also married an incredibly green man. Craig Sams is founder of a company called Whole Earth Foods. I don't know if anyone here has ever eaten Whole Earth's peanut butter, but basically that's obviously why I married him. And he was also chairman of the Soil Association at the time. And I walked into his office one day and I found 2 squares from a sample bar of chocolate sitting on his desk. And, you know, you find chocolate on your husband's desk, there really is only one thing to do. So I put it in my mouth and this taste explosion went off. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best, most delicious, naughtiest, darkest chocolate I've ever eaten. What is it? And he said, well, it is a sample of the world's first organic chocolate, but I can't do anything with it because it has sugar in. And Whole Earth was founded on the principles of no added sugar. But I guess the chocolate nagged at me and I nagged at Craig, and eventually he turned around to me and said, look, if you're so interested, you do it. And what he really meant by that was that he could take care of some of the operations, the distribution, etc., but I had to do the PR and marketing, which obviously as a journalist I had some insights, albeit on the other side of the territory. And the really big catch was that I had to finance it because we were in the middle of a financial year. He didn't have launching a whole new brand in the middle of his budget.
I think the honest answer is it depends on the day. The correct, or the more politically correct answer is, I mean, I made it my job. I made it my passion, my profession. And it would be really hard to have done this for 25 years with no hope. So No, I believe in humankind. I've chosen to believe that we can fix this. I mean, this is a human-made problem, despite what some people think and say, but it is a human-made problem. And I think that the way we have built up society with businesses and P&L, organizational structures, hierarchy, tax system, you name it, pension. I mean, all that is a human construct, which means that it's in our reach to also change that. It's different with the laws of ecology. That's the planet. That's not much for us to fix there or to do there. It's kind of set. But with all the things that have been created by us, we also have it within our reach to change it. So I do believe, and then I do have days when I feel a bit more worried than other days. But I do believe that we have it within our reach. We have the ingenuity, we have definitely the money, if we put our money to it, to do something really good. And I think the key thing, I think we need to change the narrative. And I mean, I've been in this for so long, but that when we talk about saving the planet and saving animals and all these cute teddy bears and polar bears, and which definitely, absolutely we need to do for their own sake. I mean, they have every right to be on the planet. But fundamentally, it's about our life on this planet. I mean, the planet will survive in one shape or another. It's about our life and our here and now, but our kids and our grandkids. It's about, do we want to stay on this planet? So I hope that people realize that, and instead of kind of crashing into the doomsday, everything is over, we can't do anything, to really use that energy and creativity that we do have within us to make a change.
When you're 2,500 miles away from the nearest town, and what you have on that boat is all you have, you really understand what finite means. What we have is all we have, there is no more. And I translated that understanding of finite that, to be frank, I was never looking for, to our global economy. And I began to realize our global economy is in fact no different from that boat. We have finite materials available to us, really once in the history of humanity. And yet when I began to learn about these materials, when I began to try to understand what our global economy looks like, I thought there was a magic answer. I thought there were loads of materials. When you dig into it, actually, there really aren't. Oil is not going to last forever. We don't know exactly how long, but it won't be around forever. Metals, polymers, all of these things that we feed into our economy, they won't be around forever. And I thought there were magic solutions out there when I first thought of this, first time outside of my headspace of sailing. But when I talked to people about solutions, the solutions were about using less. The solutions were making a garment with less material, making a car with less material, using a little bit less energy to do that. And of course, if you have finite materials, you are very careful with how you use them, once you realize that fact. But just using less is not a solution. It buys you time.
I think many businesses, if you look behind the brand, are actually much more complex in legal structure or in geographical spread than you would imagine. So I think for many businesses, it is all about how do you truly engage stakeholders, whether those stakeholders are like business partners, they are your supply chain, or they are, for example, like in the case of hospitality, real estate and asset owners. So this is a global network of stakeholders we need to bring on a path to net zero and net positive to go beyond that. And as you can read in many important works, but not in the least the book by my hero, Paul Polman, Net Positive, it is really about creating that system change. So I think it's about thinking big, having a vision, and being bold in your outreach. So that is how you create sustainability at scale. And then, of course, we need to think about financing, and we need to think about pioneering.
Yeah, I think the main thing I often say is this is not a band-aid solution. It's not just hiring one ESG expert or someone with sustainability in the title. It should be absolutely something foundational that goes throughout your company and your organization and sits in everybody's strategies and everybody's KPIs. Because the problem is with a siloed approach, if it's the ESG or the sustainability team, it's just seen as something that everyone doesn't need to worry about. And, you know, I think as humans, we do in general not like change. And you can really see that with things that such as legislation coming in for sustainability. You know, the EU, for example, are very clear on the legislation and when it's coming in. For example, digital product passports. And these are showing the ingredients of everything that is in a product. It is not new news that this is coming in 2027. But if I could tell you how many brands haven't even started looking at this, it is insane. So I really think if it's everybody's priority to work to this, you will have a strategy, you won't be scrambling, and you ultimately won't be fined for not adhering to these things or end up hurting your bottom line. So it is really important that it is everybody's strategy and everybody's foundational approach.
Climate literacy is a journey. It's not something that happens over a couple of weeks. It really takes time. And the advice that I would give business owners is, one, to find something that is repeatable in your schedule. Subscribe to a newsletter that covers different climate topics. Maybe they send out a newsletter once or every couple of weeks, and commit to reading through that so that you can start learning some of the terms, some of the themes that come up. And very similar to this, there are many really great podcasts that share episodes very regularly, and just listening to those, committing to once a week or once every other week is a really great place to start, because again, climate is a very vast field, and anything from circularity all the way to the energy transition, it's really helpful to know it all. Additionally, there are resources specific to business owners, and whether it's small business owners or medium to large size businesses, a lot of the resources are free. So I would encourage business owners to look those up, because sometimes they're even local, and they'll give you great tips on how to not only improve your climate literacy, but look at your business through the lens of climate.
Space is a passion of mine, so I really enjoy space exploration, learning about space exploration, and I believe that the space sector is benefiting Earth in so many ways. So the first is satellites. There are so many satellites around the globe from various organizations doing with various purposes, positive purposes, and they help with communication, GPS. They help with internet connectivity, they help with broadcasting, they help with agriculture, and they help with defense as well, and the military. And one of my favorite things is connectivity with satellites, because they promote connectivity in rural parts of the world where people don't have access to the internet. Some organizations are actually doing that and helping more of the population be online, and this adds value to this adds a lot of value, because when people are online, they have access to opportunities, including education. The more educated they are, the more opportunities they have, the more they grow, and the more they grow, it's better for their society and their nation and their population and the people that they come across and impact and teach. And I just believe it's so important, and I would love to see more organizations doing this and more satellites providing these capabilities. The ISS is the International Space Station, where there are it's the largest satellite off the planet in space so far. And the ISS has a lot of groundbreaking scientific experiments, from studying the astronaut's body in microgravity, 3D printing, various tools, and studying cures for diseases such as cancer, for breast cancer even. And I think it was MS. There are various other benefits from the space sector. I was interviewing NASA scientists I was interviewing engineers and entrepreneurs for a podcast and video series that I made called Spaced Out. I feature some of these interviews, clips from these interviews in the talk, in my presentation. And they were telling me about the Mars rover missions, which I reported on for Space Channel a few years ago. And the NASA scientist told me, Jim Green was his name, that the Earth may be like Venus very soon because of global warming. And if we don't act soon, then we won't be able to preserve humanity. And to preserve humanity, we need to populate Mars, the red planet. And I believe Elon Musk is trying to work on that with Starship, the biggest rocket that he's been working on developing, and all the launches that he's had so far. There hasn't been complete success yet, but each time with engineering innovation and advancement, there's some more success. And that spaceship, I believe, is going to take us to Mars and help us become a spacefaring civilization. So space exploration and space tourism is also very important because it helps individuals experience the overview effect. When they see this beautiful blue and green marble from space, they understand that we are all one, that we are all living together as brothers and sisters or as fellow earthlings on this planet, and so we must preserve it. It helps people with understanding the importance of combating climate change, sustainability needs and requirements for the planet and for the people as well to act upon that. And it helps with empathy and understanding.
Yeah, if they talk about environment part, ESG, they related with other things also. But at first, I recommend to review what is the company's the situation, with seeing of course, they need to understand what is the ESG and what is the environment relation. So, for example, the large organizations have many units, not only the one business, but reviewing one by one. Yes, it's taking time, but there is some of the cases for sure they're related with the environment, and if you could notice how to make it some part efficient, it's already directly related with that some of the environmental the efficiency. So not only taking your time, but also it could be for yourself. So I recommend start from checking what it is and review all of your unit.